Sofia Martinez stood at the viewing deck of the Human Defense Coalition station, her eyes fixed on the stars. Today was the day humanity would finally step onto the galactic stage. After finding the secret to faster-than-light travel 30 years ago, humans had kept to their solar system, building up their strength and learning about the wider universe. Now they had been invited to join the Galactic Conclave, a group of powerful alien species that ruled most of known space. "Commander Martinez, the fleet is ready for jump," said the young officer at her side. Sophia nodded. "Tell Admiral Harrison, we're watching. Good luck to them all." In the distance, 5 ships prepared to make the journey to the Conclave's central station. The UES Defiant led the group, Earth's pride, and the biggest warship humans had ever built. 4 smaller escort ships formed a protective diamond around it. This was the best of Earth's space navy, not many ships, but crewed by the finest officers humanity could train. Admiral William Harrison stood on the bridge of the Defiant, his gray uniform crisp and perfect for this historic moment. "All systems, go, sir," reported his second-in-command, Jack Simmons. "Jump coordinates locked. The diplomatic team is secure." Harrison took a deep breath. "Let's make history then. Execute jump." The 5 human ships vanished in flashes of blue light, tearing holes in space-time that would carry them across hundreds of light-years in mere moments. When they emerged near the Conclave station, the human crew fell silent in awe. The diplomatic hub of the galaxy was enormous, a massive ring structure that could have encircled a small moon. Around it floated hundreds of alien vessels, many of them bigger than small cities. "My God," whispered Harrison. "Our ships look like toys compared to these." The station's traffic control directed them to a docking bay. As they approached, they passed warships of the Vexari Imperium, massive vessels covered in what looked like golden scales, each one at least 20 times larger than the Defiant. "Size isn't everything," Simmons said, but his voice lacked conviction. A smooth alien voice came over their communication system. "Human vessels follow the guide lights to Bay 94. Your accommodations have been prepared." Harrison noticed the pause. "Something wrong with that transmission?" Communications Officer Alan Peters shook his head. "No, sir. I think they were just surprised by our ships." They soon learned what he meant. When they docked in Bay 94, they found themselves in what was clearly the section for minor species and visitors of little importance. Their 5 vessels barely filled a corner of the massive hangar. "They put us in the small craft section," Simmons observed. "Look, those aren't even warships next to us. They're private yachts and trading vessels." Harrison straightened his uniform. "Never mind that. We're here to make an impression with our actions, not our hardware." The first meeting with the Conclave representatives went poorly from the start. The human delegation was led into a vast chamber where representatives from dozens of species sat in tiered rows. The Vexari, blue-skinned with 4 arms and elaborate head crests, dominated the central positions. "Ah, the humans arrive," said the Vexari ambassador, Zorthak. His universal translator gave his voice a smooth, almost bored quality. "We welcome Earth to the Conclave Observation Gallery." "Observation Gallery?" asked Harrison. "We were invited to apply for membership." A ripple of what might have been laughter moved through the alien delegates. "In time, perhaps," said another alien, a reptilian being from the Dravak Federation. "Most species spend at least a century in observation status before being considered for associate membership." Zorthak gestured grandly. "We have reviewed your technological capabilities and military assets. Your achievements are quaint for such a young species." On a massive screen behind him appeared images of the human fleet, not just the 5 ships that had made the journey, but spy footage of all 27 warships that Earth had managed to build since discovering FTL technology. "The Vexari Imperium alone controls over 10,000 warships," Zorthak continued, "the smallest of which could destroy your entire fleet. But do not be discouraged, in a few hundred years you may catch up." More laughter followed, less disguised this time. Harrison kept his face neutral, despite his anger. "We appreciate your assessment, Ambassador Zorthak. But I believe there's more to military power than ship count or size." "Is there?" asked Zorthak with exaggerated interest. Please enlighten us, Admiral. The Conclave has kept peace across 70% of the galaxy for 10,000 years. What military wisdom could Earth possibly offer? Harrison met the aliens. Only that history shows it's unwise to judge any force before seeing it in action. Bold words, said an elderly alien from a species Harrison didn't recognize. But words don't win battles. The diplomatic meeting continued for hours, with Earth's representatives being politely but firmly put in their place at every turn. They were assigned quarters far from the central parts of the station, and their requests for technical exchange were denied or delayed. Later that evening, Harrison met with his officers in their assigned meeting room, a space so small that the 10 of them barely fit around the table. Well, that could have gone better, said Simmons with a grimace. Harrison nodded. They see us as children, not worth taking seriously. Diplomatic Officer Karen West frowned. They allowed us to join the observation gallery only because they want to study us. Did you notice how interested they were in our biology? I don't think they care about our culture or capabilities at all. Maybe that's our advantage, said Harrison quietly. Let them underestimate us. Jack Simmons had been unusually quiet. Now he spoke up. While they were all focused on mocking our ships, I was watching their security systems, studying their ship designs. They're advanced, yes, but predictable. Their technology has been stable for centuries. No innovation, no adaptation. What are you thinking, Jack? Asked Harrison. I'm thinking that they've had peace for so long they've forgotten what real war is like, said Simmons. Their ships are big and powerful, but their tactics are by the book, predictable. They don't expect surprises. Harrison smiled for the first time since they'd arrived. Then let's not disappoint them. We'll play the part they expect, the humble newcomers, eager to learn. Meanwhile, we observe everything. And report back to Earth, added Karen. The President needs to know what we're dealing with. Outside the viewport of their small meeting room, the massive warships of the Conclave species drifted by, their lights gleaming against the backdrop of stars. The human officers watched in silence, their tiny ships forgotten in a distant docking bay. But already their minds were working, analyzing, planning, doing what humans had always done best when faced with overwhelming odds. Adapting. Far away, on the edge of conclave space, something was stirring. Something that would soon test the mighty alien armadas in ways they hadn't been tested for millennia. And when that test came, the laughably small human fleet would suddenly not seem so amusing anymore. 6 months had passed since humanity's underwhelming introduction to the Galactic Conclave. Earth's diplomats maintained their presence at the station, quietly gathering information while enduring the continued condescension of the alien species. Admiral Harrison sat in his small office aboard the UES Defiant, reviewing reports from his crew. The ship had remained docked at the Conclave station, a visible reminder of humanity's quaint technology. Sir, we've received an encrypted message from Earth, said Jack Simmons, entering the office with a data pad. Harrison took the pad and scanned the contents. His face grew serious. Dr. Elizabeth Grant has finished her shield prototype. The test results look promising. Better than promising, Simmons said with a rare smile. According to these numbers, her adaptive shield system outperforms standard conclave shields by a factor of 3, despite using less energy. Harrison nodded. The aliens focus on brute force, bigger generators, more power. They never considered that shields could learn and adapt during battle. Their conversation was interrupted by a chime from the communication system. Admiral, Ambassador Winters requests your presence at an emergency meeting with conclave officials, came the voice of Communications Officer Peters. 30 minutes later, Harrison and Simmons stood with Ambassador Samuel Winters in a conclave. Briefing room. Several alien representatives were present, including Zorthak of the Vexari. We've called this meeting to share information regarding a security matter, Zorthak said, his tone making it clear this was a courtesy rather than a consultation. A species known as the Krell has been attacking worlds at the edge of conclave, space. A holographic display showed a swarm of angular ships with spiked protrusions. They moved in tight formations, overwhelming the defenses of a small planet. The Krell Dominion has stayed in their territory for centuries, explained a Dravak representative. Now they've suddenly launched attacks on 3 frontier worlds. Harrison studied the tactical display. What's your response plan? Zorthak made a dismissive gesture with his lower arms. The Conclave Defense Fleet has dispatched 60 battle cruisers to contain the threat. It's a minor border skirmish, nothing more. We inform you only because your species seems unusually interested in military matters. After the meeting, Winters, Harrison, and Simmons gathered in the secure room aboard the Defiant. They're worried, Winters said. I could see it in their body language. Harrison nodded. The Krell ships were smaller than Conclave vessels, but they moved with purpose and coordination. This isn't a random attack. And they didn't show us the casualty reports, Simmons added. I checked their information network. Those 3 frontier worlds had a combined population of over 6 billion. All gone. Harrison's face hardened. We need to prepare. Whatever the Conclave says, this is no border skirmish. Back on Earth, Dr. Elizabeth Grant worked through the night in her laboratory. The walls were covered with diagrams and equations, and complex machines hummed around her. Another success, she told her assistant, Paul Bennett. The shield absorbed the energy from the test weapon and reconfigured to block the next 3 shots completely. Bennett whistled. The system learns from each attack. That's genius. It's not just about absorbing energy, Grant explained. It's about predicting the next attack pattern and adapting before it happens. She looked at the prototype generator, small enough to fit on a desk. And it works with a fraction of the power that alien shields need. President Andrew Miller called an emergency session of the Human Defense Council the next day. Representatives from Earth's major nations gathered in the underground chamber beneath New Geneva. The situation with the Krell is worse than the Conclave admits, Miller told them, his voice grave. Our intelligence suggests they've destroyed 5 worlds, not 3, and Conclave forces are struggling to contain them. What does this mean? For Earth? Asked a council member. Miller nodded to Admiral Harrison, who had returned from the Conclave station for the meeting. It means we face a choice, Harrison said. We can stay quiet and hope the Conclave handles this threat, or we can offer our help. Help? Asked another council member with a laugh. Our tiny fleet against an enemy that's defeating the Conclave's massive armadas? What could we possibly offer? Harrison nodded to Dr. Grant, who stepped forward with her prototype. This, she said simply, and a different way of thinking about space warfare. After 3 days of debate, the council voted. Earth would offer assistance to the Conclave. Ambassador Winters delivered the message personally to the Conclave High Command. We appreciate your enthusiasm, said Zorthak, barely hiding his amusement. But the Krell situation is well in hand. The Conclave has defended the galaxy for 10,000 years. We hardly need assistance from a species that has only recently discovered how to leave their own solar system. Winters maintained his diplomatic smile. Nevertheless, our offer stands. Earth has insights that might prove valuable. Insights? Zorthak laughed openly now. Your 5 ships against the Krell swarm? They would be destroyed in seconds. We've expanded our fleet, Winters replied calmly. We now have 12 combat-ready vessels. This caused actual laughter throughout the Conclave chamber. 12 ships seemed even more pathetic against the backdrop of the thousands the Conclave commanded. As Winters left the chamber, a Vexari aide approached him privately. Ambassador, not all of us share Zorthak's dismissive attitude, the aide said quietly. I am Kelvir, cultural attaché. I find your species interesting. How so? Asked Winters. You have more wars in your short history than most Conclave species have had in thousands of years, said Kelvir. Yet you survived. You adapted. This is unusual. We call it human nature, Winters replied with a small smile. Perhaps, said Kelvir, this nature deserves more study. 2 weeks later, alarms blared throughout the Conclave station. Harrison and Simmons rushed to the command center, where Conclave officials were gathered around tactical displays. What's happened? Harrison asked Kelvir, who had become something of an unofficial liaison. Proxima Station has fallen, Kelvir said, his voice tight with worry. The Krell overwhelmed its defenses in hours. 3 Conclave battle cruisers were destroyed. Harrison examined the tactical display. Proxima Station is only 2 jumps from here. Where are your reinforcements? Zorthak joined them, his earlier arrogance diminished. Deployed elsewhere. The Krell attacked simultaneously at multiple points. Our forces are spread thin. And the next target? Asked Simmons. Zorthak pointed to a station marked on the display. Centauri Hub. It's a critical junction for 5 hyperspace lanes. If it falls, the Krell will have open access to the core worlds, including Earth, Harrison said quietly. Zorthak's head crest flattened slightly, a sign of distress. The nearest Conclave battle group is 3 days away. Centauri Hub has minimal defenses. Harrison and Simmons exchanged glances. Ambassador Winters made an offer of assistance, Harrison reminded the Vexari. It still stands. For a long moment, Zorthak stared at the human admiral. Pride battled with necessity on his alien features. Very well, he said finally. Your 12 ships can join Centauri Hub's defense force, though I fail to see what difference they will make against a Krell attack force of over 200 vessels. Harrison's face remained calm, but his eyes held a glint of determination. Sometimes, Ambassador, it's not the size of the fleet that matters, but how you use it. Commander Sofia Martinez stood on the bridge of the UES Defiant, watching as her 12 ships approached Centauri Hub. The massive space station hung against the backdrop of stars, its defensive systems already on high alert. Status report, she ordered, her voice calm despite the tension. All ships in formation, Commander, reported Lieutenant Lisa Chen from the tactical station. Dr. Grant's shield systems are online across the fleet. Chief Bennett reports all systems at peak efficiency. Martinez nodded. When Admiral Harrison had asked her to lead this mission, she knew it might be a one-way trip. The Krell had destroyed every Conclave force they'd faced so far. 12 human ships seemed like a poor match against 200 enemy vessels. The station is hailing us, said Communications Officer Alan Peters. The view screen activated, showing the face of a Dravak officer, his scaled skin flushed dark with stress. Human vessels, this is Station Commander Zextral. We appreciate your assistance, though I'm not sure what you can do against the Krell force. Martinez smiled slightly. We have a few tricks up our sleeves, Commander. Request permission to coordinate with your defense fleet. Fleet is a generous term, Zextral replied bitterly. We have 3 patrol cruisers and the station's fixed defenses. The main Conclave battle group won't arrive for another 60 hours. The Krell will be here in 20, said Martinez. We've studied their attack patterns. Allow us to take command of the defense. The Dravak looked shocked. You want us to place ourselves under human command? That's necessary if you want to survive, Martinez interrupted. Admiral Harrison's orders were clear. We're here to help, but we need full tactical control. After a tense silence, Zextral nodded. Very well. The Conclave vessels will follow. Your lead. What's your plan? Martinez turned to Lieutenant Chen. Show them Formation Echo. The tactical display activated, showing a strange pattern that made the Dravak commander tilt his head in confusion. What is this? Your ships will be scattered. This violates all standard Conclave battle doctrine. That's the point, said Martinez. The Krell have been destroying your forces because they can predict your movements. We'll do something they won't expect. Over the next few hours, the human ships directed the station's defenses into new configurations. Chief Engineer Paul Bennett worked with the station's crew to modify their shield systems with Dr. Grant's adaptive technology. The Conclave officers watched with growing interest as the humans moved with practiced efficiency. Your species prepares for battle like you've done this all your life, observed a Vexari officer. In a way we have, replied Bennett as he adjusted a power coupling. Humans have been fighting wars since we could pick up sticks. It's not something we're proud of, but it means we're good at it. The Krell arrived exactly when predicted. Their ships dropped out of hyperspace in a tight formation, a sphere of bristling weapons platforms and arrow-shaped attack craft. They're hailing us, reported Peters with surprise. The view screen showed a Krell commander, a being with gray skin and multiple eye stalks. "Surrender Centauri Hub and your deaths will be quick," it said without introduction. Martinez stepped forward. "This is Commander Sofia Martinez of Earth. The station is under our protection. Leave now or face the consequences." The Krell commander's eye stalks wavered slightly, perhaps the alien equivalent of surprise. "Earth? We have no record of your species. You are not Conclave." "We're new around here," Martinez replied, "but we learn fast." The communication ended abruptly. The Krell ships began moving, spreading into their attack formation. "They're powering weapons," reported Chen. "Standard Krell attack pattern. They'll target our biggest ships first, trying to punch through the center of our formation." Martinez smiled. "Except we don't have a center. Execute formation echo." The human ships suddenly accelerated in different directions, seemingly at random. The 3 Conclave cruisers, following human instructions, moved to positions that made no sense by conventional tactics. The Krell attack formation faltered momentarily, clearly confused by the lack of a proper defensive line. "They're shooting!" called out an officer as the first salvos of Krell energy weapons lanced out. The shot struck Dr. Grant's modified shields on 2 human vessels. Instead of the expected explosions, the shields flared with unusual patterns, absorbing and learning from the attack. "Shield status?" Martinez asked quickly. "Holding at 92%, reported Bennett. "The adaptive systems are working. They're already reconfiguring to better absorb the Krell weapon frequencies." Martinez nodded. "Phase 2. Execute Operation Hornet's Nest." The human ships suddenly accelerated again, forming small, tight groups of 2 or 3 vessels. Each group targeted a different section of the Krell formation, darting in to fire precise shots before retreating. "What are they doing?" asked Zextral from the station's command center. "They're not using proper firing lines." Kelvir, the Vexari cultural attaché who had accompanied the human fleet, watched the tactical display with growing understanding. "They're not trying to overpower the Krell. They can't, so they're disrupting their formation instead. Look. On the display, the Krell ships were breaking their careful sphere, turning to chase the nimble human vessels. Gaps appeared in their formation as communication and coordination faltered. "Now," ordered Martinez. "Target their command ships." The scattered human vessels suddenly changed course with impossible coordination. 12 ships, moving as one despite being spread across the battlefield, converged on 3 points in the Krell formation. "How are they maintaining such perfect coordination?" asked a Conclave officer in awe. The answer was Lieutenant Lisa Chen and her tactical team. While Conclave ships relied on standard battle computers that followed programmed doctrines, Chen's team was actively directing each ship in real time, adapting their strategy second by second. The human ships fired simultaneously at the Krell command vessels, their weapons significantly less powerful than Conclave weapons, but aimed with surgical precision at communication arrays and sensor nodes. "Direct hits on all targets," reported Chen with quiet satisfaction. The effect on the Krell fleet was immediate and dramatic. Without central coordination, their disciplined formation collapsed into chaos. Ships fired at random, some colliding with each other as they tried to regroup. "Formation Delta," ordered Martinez. "Let's show them what humans can really do." The 12 Earth ships formed into an arrowhead pattern and drove straight through the disorganized Krell fleet, firing continuously. Their shields, now fully adapted to Krell weapons, held firm as they punched through the enemy formation. From the Centauri Hub Command Center, the Conclave officers watched in stunned silence. The tiny human fleet was dancing around the massive Krell force, hitting critical systems with precision while avoiding the bulk of enemy fire. "I don't understand," said Zextral finally. "Their ships are inferior in every way. Their weapons are weaker, their engines slower. How are they winning?" Kelvir watched as another Krell command ship exploded under concentrated human fire. "Because they're not fighting the way we fight. They're not trying to overpower the Krell, they're outthinking them." 3 hours later, the remnants of the once mighty Krell fleet retreated in disarray. Of the 200 ships that had attacked, More than 60 had been destroyed and many others damaged beyond fighting capability. The human fleet had lost only one ship, with 3 others damaged but repairable. As the adrenaline of battle faded, the conclave officers looked at the humans with new eyes. No one was laughing at the tiny fleet now. News of the victory at Centauri Hub spread quickly through the conclave. The small human fleet that had been the subject of mockery was now the center of amazed discussions. Commander Martinez and her crews returned to the main conclave station as heroes, not curiosities. Admiral Harrison stood with Ambassador Winters as the Defiant docked. The greeting party included not just human personnel, but a delegation of high-ranking conclave officials. The Vexari High Command requests an immediate, strategic meeting with you. Zorthak told Harrison, his tone respectful rather than condescending. Your tactics against the Krell were unexpected. Harrison nodded politely. We would be happy to share our insights. In the days that followed, Lieutenant Commander Simmons led briefings for conclave military officers, explaining human battle strategies. The aliens were particularly interested in how the small human fleet had maintained such perfect coordination. It's not about technology, Simmons explained to a room full of conclave officers. It's about flexible thinking. Your battle computers follow pre-programmed patterns. Our tactical officers make real-time adjustments based on what they see. Travak Admiral snorted. That cannot be more effective than thousands of years of refined battle algorithms. It is when facing an enemy who knows those algorithms, replied Simmons. The Krell have studied your tactics. They know exactly what you'll do in any situation. Before the debate could continue, alarms blared throughout the station. Harrison and Simmons rushed to the command center, where conclave officials were gathered around tactical displays with expressions of horror. The Krell have changed their strategy, said Zorthak grimly. They're no longer targeting conclave strongholds. The display showed a new Krell fleet, larger than any seen before, moving toward a specific destination. They're heading for Earth, said Harrison, his face pale. How long do we have? 3 days at most, replied a conclave tactical officer. Harrison turned to Simmons. Send word to Earth immediately. Full planetary defense protocols. And contact Martinez. We need the fleet. Back now. While the conclave officials argued about how to respond to this new threat, humans moved with urgent purpose. Dr. Elizabeth Grant had returned to Earth after implementing her shield technology on the fleet. Now she stood in a massive factory, where hundreds of workers assembled her shield generators. We need more, she told President Miller as they toured the facility. The Krell will bring everything they have this time. Miller nodded grimly. Every ship we have is being fitted with your shields. But we only have 18 military vessels total. What about civilian ships? Asked Grant. Can they be converted? Before Miller could answer, a young engineer approached them. Dr. Grant, I'm Kevin Wright. I've been studying your shield design and I think I've found a way to retrofit civilian vessels in under 12 hours. Grant looked at the designs he showed her. This is brilliant, Mr. Wright. Stripped down. But it would work. Miller made a quick decision. Do it. Every ship that can fly gets a shield and whatever weapons we can mount on it. Earth will not fall without a fight. While Earth prepared, the conclave debated. Some species argued they should help defend the human homeworld. Others insisted they needed to protect their own territories instead. The Krell are changing tactics, Kelvir argued before the Conclave High Council. They recognize the humans as a threat now. If Earth falls, they will have eliminated the one species that has successfully countered their strategies. Zorthak, once humanity's greatest critic, now spoke in their defense. The humans stopped a Krell attack force with just 12 ships. Their innovations could be crucial to the Conclave's survival. After hours of debate, a decision was reached. 3 Conclave battlecruisers would accompany the human fleet to defend Earth. It was a token force at best. Most Conclave ships were needed elsewhere as the Krell attacked on multiple fronts. When the massive Krell armada arrived at Earth's solar system, they expected to find a helpless planet with perhaps 20 ships to defend it. Instead, they faced a defensive grid of over 300 vessels. Commander Martinez stood on the bridge of the Defiant, watching as civilian ships took up their positions alongside military vessels. Cruise liners, cargo haulers, mining ships, all had been quickly outfitted with Grant's shield technology and whatever weapons could be mounted on their frames. "The Krell fleet has entered the system," reported Lieutenant Chen. "Over 400 ships. They're moving into attack formation." Martinez studied the tactical display, where the Krell ships formed their familiar sphere pattern. "They're sticking to their standard approach. They haven't learned yet." "Maybe they think Centauri Hub was a fluke," suggested Chief Bennett. "Or they believe their numbers will overwhelm us this time." The 3 Conclave battlecruisers moved into position behind the human fleet. Their captains had been surprised and somewhat offended when Admiral Harrison had asked them to hold back rather than lead the defense. "Let us show you how humans fight when protecting their home," Harrison had told them. Now as the Krell advanced, the human fleet executed a maneuver that made the Conclave officers gasp. Rather than forming a defensive line, the human ships scattered into dozens of small groups, creating a 3-dimensional web around Earth. "They're exposing gaps in their formation," said a Vexari captain. "The Krell will break through easily." Kelvir, watching from one of the battlecruisers, smiled slightly. "That's exactly what they want the Krell to think." When the Krell attacked, they drove straight toward the apparent gaps in Earth's defenses. As they passed between the scattered human ships, they suddenly found themselves caught in devastating crossfire. Civilian vessels, though lightly armed, fired from all directions at once, while military ships targeted the Krell command vessels with precision strikes. On the Defiant's bridge, Commander Martinez watched as the battle unfolded according to plan. "Operation Fishnet is working. The Krell are splitting their forces to chase our decoy groups." Meanwhile, a small team led by Commander Nicole Taylor had slipped away from the main battle. Her special operations vessel, designed for stealth rather than combat, approached the massive Krell flagship. "We're in position," Taylor reported. "Beginning Phase 2. While the battle raged around Earth, Taylor's team attached to the hull of the Krell command ship and cut their way inside. Unlike the Conclave species, who relied entirely on ship-to-ship combat, humans had centuries of experience with boarding actions and close-quarters fighting. "Their internal security is minimal," Taylor reported as her team moved through the alien vessel. "They never expected anyone to get inside." Within 30 minutes, Taylor's team reached the ship's central computer core. They uploaded a virus, created by Earth's best programmers, a digital weapon designed to spread through the Krell fleet's communication network. Outside, the battle had reached its peak intensity. Several human ships had been destroyed, and many more damaged. But the Krell were taking far heavier losses as the human fleet danced around them, striking from unexpected angles and vanishing before they could respond. Suddenly, the Krell flagship's weapons went silent. Then, one by one, other Krell vessels began to drift, their systems failing as the virus spread. "It worked," said Martinez with quiet satisfaction. "Commander Taylor's team has succeeded." The 3 Conclave battlecruisers, which had been holding back as ordered, now moved forward to help mop up the remaining Krell resistance. The battle for Earth was over. As the Krell fleet retreated in disarray, the Conclave captains stared in, amazement at the tactical displays. The supposedly primitive humans had not just survived. They had decisively defeated the greatest threat the Conclave had faced in thousands of years. No one was laughing at the tiny fleet now. 1 month after the Battle of Earth, the Conclave Grand Chamber looked very different. Where once humans had stood at the back as barely tolerated observers, now Admiral Harrison and his officers sat in places of honor near the center. Representatives from dozens of alien species who had previously ignored the human delegation now sought their attention. "The Krell attacks have decreased by 70% since their defeat at Earth," reported a Dravak military officer. "Their remaining forces have withdrawn to their original territory." Zorthak, who now treated Harrison as an equal, nodded respectfully to the human admiral. "The Conclave owes a debt to humanity. Your unconventional methods have saved many lives." Harrison smiled slightly. "We're glad to help, but the fight isn't over yet. The Krell will regroup and try again unless we take action." For the first time in thousands of years, the Conclave was considering an offensive operation. The very idea was revolutionary to species that had grown comfortable with static defenses and predictable battles. After the formal session ended, Ambassador Winters met with the Conclave High Council in their private chamber. The human diplomat had been officially invited to join this elite group, an honor that would have been unthinkable just months ago. "We propose a formal alliance between Earth and the Conclave," said Winters. "Not as junior partners, but as equals." Council members exchanged glances. Finally, the eldest member spoke. "Your achievements have earned respect but equality. Your technology is still far behind ours in many areas." "Technology isn't everything," Winters replied. "The Krell proved that. What we offer is a different way of thinking, adaptability, innovation, and yes, expertise in warfare that your species have forgotten after millennia of peace." The negotiations continued for days. Meanwhile, on Earth, Dr. Elizabeth Grant welcomed visitors to her laboratory. Scientists from a dozen Conclave species crowded around her shield prototypes, asking questions that she patiently answered. The key insight was letting the shields learn, she explained to a fascinated Vexari scientist. "Your shields try to block everything equally. Ours analyze the attack and adapt specifically to counter it." "Brilliant," admitted the alien scientist. "We would never have considered this approach. We've been improving the same basic design for centuries." Grant smiled. "Sometimes a fresh perspective helps. Now, I've been studying your power generation systems. If we combine our shield design with your energy technology, we could improve efficiency even further." This was happening across Earth. Human innovation combining with alien technology to create something new. The ships of Earth's expanded fleet were being upgraded with Conclave weapon systems, while Conclave engineers studied the nimble human vessel designs with growing interest. In orbit above Earth, a new kind of academy had been established. Lieutenant Commander Simmons stood before a class of military officers from 20 different species. "Traditional battle formations work well against predictable enemies," he told them. "But when facing an adaptive foe like the Krell, flexibility becomes more important than raw power." A Dravak officer raised a claw. "But our battle computers cannot process tactical changes quickly enough to implement the kind of maneuvers your ships performed." "That's because you're too dependent on computers," Simmons explained. "Human tactics rely on trained officers making real-time decisions based on battlefield conditions. The computer is a tool, not the commander." This concept was revolutionary to the Conclave species, who had come to rely too heavily on technology and ancient battle doctrines. Young officers especially embraced these new ideas, eager to learn what humans called the art of war, something their civilizations had reduced to sterile equations long ago. Commander Martinez, now promoted to admiral, met with President Miller in his office overlooking New Geneva. Through the window they could see construction crews building a Conclave embassy, the first alien diplomatic mission on Earth. "The Joint Defense Initiative has been approved," Miller told her. "You'll command a mixed fleet of human and Conclave vessels. Your mission will be to secure the border regions against any future Krell aggression." Martinez nodded. "The Conclave ships are more powerful, but they've agreed to adopt our command structure and tactics. It's an incredible opportunity." "And a heavy responsibility," added Miller. "The Conclave hasn't fought an offensive campaign in thousands of years. They're looking to us for leadership now." Later that week, Admiral Harrison addressed a special session of the Conclave. Representatives from every member species were present, along with the full human diplomatic delegation. "3 months ago, we stood before you as newcomers," Harrison began. "You saw our small fleet and dismissed us as primitive, unworthy of your attention." Murmurs of embarrassment rippled through the chamber. "But size and power aren't everything," continued Harrison. "Humanity learned long ago that wars aren't won by the biggest ships or the strongest weapons. They're won by innovation, adaptability, and the willingness to try new approaches when old ones fail." He gestured to the tactical display showing the aftermath of the Krell retreat. "Together we've accomplished something remarkable. Human tactics combined with Conclave technology have defeated an enemy that threatened us all. Zorthak, once humanity's greatest critic, now stood and addressed the chamber. I was among those who laughed at the human fleet. I was wrong. They have taught us that we had grown complacent, relying on our technological superiority while forgetting the art of strategy. We need each other, Harrison continued. Your technology and resources combined with our tactical flexibility. This partnership will make both humanity and the Conclave stronger. The chamber erupted in applause, a rare show of emotion from the usually reserved alien delegates. 6 months after humanity's humiliating introduction to the galactic community, a new ship launched from Earth's orbital shipyards. The UES Unity was unlike any vessel built before, a fusion of human design philosophy and Conclave technology. Its captain was Commander Sofia Martinez, with a crew drawn from both humanity and various Conclave species. As the ship prepared for its maiden voyage, Martinez stood on the bridge looking at the stars through the view screen. "Orders, Captain?" asked her Vexari first officer. Martinez smiled. "Take us out, Commander. We have a galaxy to protect." As the Unity accelerated toward the stars, it symbolized a new era for both humanity and the Conclave. The species that had once laughed at Earth's tiny fleet now stood as allies and students, learning the lessons that humanity's challenging history had taught. And somewhere in the darkness between the stars, the Krell watched and planned. But, this time, they would face a united force. The technological might of the Conclave guided by the innovative spirit of humanity. A combination that would prove unbeatable.